As I was trying to find a space for Fall of Reach on my shelf, I saw the Minecraft construction handbook just sitting there, gathering dust. It'd probably been about 10 years since I'd picked that up. I flipped through and wondered if these old builds still held up from that long ago and decided to build the entire handbook. I never realized it before, but I actually own the updated version, but whatever, still counts. I started with the first build, a wooden house. Now the thing about the construction handbook is that it doesn't really do a very good job of explaining how to build like a YouTube tutorial. It doesn't tell you how many blocks need to be placed in each direction and just glosses over some steps. So you kinda just have to look ahead at other pictures to try and figure it out. Anyway, I built up the cobblestone walls and then realized I had world edit enabled, and the amount of time it's taken me just to figure out how many blocks I'm supposed to be placing, I gave in and just used it to help me build up the walls. After spending the whole time placing oak planks, the next step told me I had to tear it all down and fill it with glass and logs. What? Why tell me to build the planks then? That took a while to figure out because it doesn't show you an overview, but rather just directly in front of you with a bit over the top, so I had to figure it out if this was an entire corner of logs or just two next to each other. After that fiasco, it was time to move on to the roof, and of course it glosses over more steps. I didn't realize it at first, but I needed to build up a bunch more blocks. I mean, it does say that in the instructions, but who has time to read words nowadays? I suppose the roof wasn't too difficult, it was just trying to count along the walls to figure out where each block goes. The final step told me to add finishing touches such as a balcony, chimney, and window on the roof. Now I don't know about you, but trying to figure out where this window is positioned is making my eyes feel wobbly. Couldn't they just show us a close-up? I kinda had to wing it on that one. Now for some reason the book didn't show the back of the house, so I had to improvise and just make it look like how I thought it might do. I tried curving the roof inwards, but that didn't really work, so I made it hang over and put some doors to go out onto the balcony. Took me a while, but I think it turned out pretty good. A few pages later, after the community builds, was the decorative garden, which showed me a full picture of what the back of the house was meant to look like. Are you for cereal, Mojang? First I spent some time changing that. The logs you have to dig into the ground here are actually cut off in the corner of the picture, so I had to use the outline of the pool and smooth stone to figure it out. Also, when I bought this book, I played the console edition, and smooth stone didn't exist in Legacy back then. We only had smooth stone slabs, so I was really confused at the time. Pool wasn't too difficult either, just dig down, fill it with some stone and smooth sandstone and fill it with water. I didn't actually know the command to fill water though, so I had to do it manually like a peasant. Also, it tells you to add this vegetable patch and deck for the barbecue, really just an anvil, but they made a continuity error here. In the main picture they placed the vegetable patch on the left and the barbecue on the right, but in the instructions it's flipped around and I couldn't be asked changing it, so I left it how it was. I will say, it is a nice garden though. This time I actually made sure to look ahead in the book before deciding I was done, so I wouldn't have a repeat of the roof, and the garden actually continued into a hedge maze and a fountain. For some reason it didn't show me which side of the house I was supposed to be on. Thankfully, due to a keen eye of mine, right in the top corner of this image we see the barbecue in the garden, and therefore we can deduce that it's meant to be on the right side of the house. It seems a bit silly to have part of the maze be at the front of the house, but hey, who am I to argue with the official Minecraft construction handbook? I know this is the updated edition and all, but they really need to make an updated edition and actually tell you how many blocks to place, because trying to count them from this tiny picture is such an annoying task. I began placing oak logs for the outline of the maze, only to realize at some point that the leaves weren't actually single blocks but rather 2x2 leaves. I'd basically had to double everything I was looking at. It took me 20 minutes, but I finally managed to get the outline done. It honestly felt way longer than that. Here, I'll linger over it in case you want to build it yourself. Next part of the instructions said to build the leaves up either 3 or 4 blocks. Well, which is it, Mojang? I decided to go with 4, and I didn't know if using world edit made it go quicker or not, but I'm gonna go with it did. I also ended up making a mockery of the entire construction handbook by disobeying it and moving the maze back a few blocks in order to line it up with this pillar. Now time for the fountain. For some strange reason, they decided to have an odd number of blocks for the fountain, meaning it wasn't symmetrical and my OCD is going crazy, but I've already disobeyed the handbook enough at this point. The book didn't actually show me how to build the fountain either, it just had a picture of it, but I did the best with what I had. And after all of that, the entire house is complete. I don't know if the original handbook showed you how to decorate the inside of the house, but this one doesn't, so I took creative liberties. After a rest from the pain it took on that first build, it was time to move on to the fortified wall. Not even walls, just a single wall. Like a wall you could just walk around. Okay. I thought that figuring out how to build the house was tough, but this one was just a nightmare. It told me to create an outline for the wall, but they look at this picture and tried to guess how many blocks that is. You can't even tell because cobblestone blends right into each other. After trying to count the stone bricks on the third step and the planks on the background image, I deduced that the wall was 40 by 12 and 20 blocks high. After building up the walls, I had to figure out the crenels. It was really difficult to do and it just wouldn't match up with the pictures at all. After a while, I gave up and decided to come back to it when I added the details of the stone bricks, but that made my job with the crenels even harder since they didn't match up. Turns out these parts were 3x2 and not 2x2, but it still wasn't symmetrical, and after another 10 minutes of trying to figure it out, I just came to the conclusion that it was just another case of them not thinking about my OCD. Filling in the oak slabs was no difficult task, but then came time to build the towers. I tried to do the outline, but does that even look right? I don't think it does. I made it a little bigger, but it still didn't seem correct. I was feeling far too defeated and gave in. The tower is 40 blocks tall, I think, in case you wanted to know. Again, the crenels don't look correct, but what are you gonna do? I'd been building for an hour at this point, and I barely had any progress to show for it. Remember to put stone brick slabs on top of these things, also on the crenels along the wall. Next I had to try and get this whole thing connected, but I just built up and called it a day. The details for the tower weren't too difficult to figure out. My problem was just that I definitely did not match the pictures at all. I mean, look at this. That's definitely an even number of blocks, right? Mine is odd. The centerpiece on the top of the tower wasn't symmetrical on both sides either, but once more, let's just put that down to that's how it's meant to be. I was going to build this tower a second time because I was already starting to feel really nauseous. I just copied and pasted it on the other side. There was still more details to add, but I needed to go throw up, and so I took care of that the next day. I mean, it still doesn't look right. Why is the left side so much farther along than the right side? What if I add another one of these? Okay, that sort of fixes it, but I just purposely disobeyed the handbook. Enough talk about the wall. It's caused me far too much trouble, and the more I discuss it, the more I feel vomit rising. In a perfect world, there would be 4 walls encasing the royal hall. This is not a perfect world. I will say, however, that the royal hall was by far the easiest build so far. I made the outline of the building, which I thought at the time was 18 by 28 and 10 blocks high. I then filled in the floor with smooth stone. These window outlines are very simple and didn't take too long to place them. There should be 5 on either side. When I went to place down the wool on the ground, I noticed that my build didn't exactly line up with the picture. Turns out this gap for the doorway was 3 blocks, not 2. But look at this picture and tell me that doesn't look like a 2-block gap at first glance. Anyway, I changed it. 19 by 28 the walls are. I decided to build the throne first before filling in the walls, since I could just slash replace it. The walls were actually cobblestone, so I created the outlines of the rest of the windows, filled them in with glass, then a quick slash replace air cobblestone on every wall, and that went pretty smooth. Next comes these stone pillars. Finally, a symmetrical building, by the way. Just line up each pillar with the first, third, and fifth window on either side with stairs at the bottom surrounding them. After that comes the log supports holding together the roof. Over where the pillars are, build a long 2x2 row of oak logs and also a cross connecting each pillar. Don't go over the stone bricks. For the roof itself, just build spruce stairs up to the middle of both sides and connect them using spruce slabs. In the middle of the front and the back of the hall, build a stack of oak logs and fill in the rest with spruce planks. Front side needs a window, and it's actually very easy to tell where they're supposed to go. That's the outside of the building finished. Now time to finish the inside. Go on top of the log supports and build up more logs at the center of each of them like this. Now the lighting for the whole building is done by these glowstone that's held up by oak fences in both of the rectangles. This might look like it go down by 2 fences, but it's just one. They just blend in together. The whole building seemed quite dark though. It turns out I missed the torches on the wall held up by fences in the center between each window. Also, it turns out this was carpet, not wool, which makes a lot more sense. I just didn't think they'd think of that. And there we go. A simple royal hall. Complete. I mean, it may not look as impressive as other builds, but it didn't make me feel nauseous building it, so I think it's one of the better ones here. Now this is a bridge. I did have a little bit of trouble with this one. I'll get into it. Of course, you can't tell how long the bridge is meant to be from this image, but you can take a pretty good guess by counting the oak logs on the background image. I counted 78 by 10, but I might have been mistaken. I'm not sure. You'll see why. I built the start of the bridge. Remember, there needs to be oak planks one in underneath and replace the top with gravel, according to the background image. It took some time to figure out where the logs holding the bridge up were meant to go. They're meant to be at least 3 blocks apart from one another, I think. Turns out I'd forgotten to count how high the bridge was meant to be, and so mine was a bit too low. As well as never learning the /fill command, I also didn't know how to work /drain, so I had to just replace the ocean with air. The water fought back. Doesn't look good, but I'll fix it later. It does give me enough building room at least. Either way, there was still too much water and the bottom end dipped here inside. But who cares? I mean, it's still correct, it's just under the water. Remember that these quote-unquote curved logs are one in front of the ones holding the bridge up. I know this isn't a how to build video, but I'll linger here for a moment so you can see how it's sort of meant to be. After I'd finished pasting on the other side, it was time to work on the pylons. I put down the row of fences on both sides and tried to figure out where they were positioned. Does that look like one in front of the last pillar to you? Anyway, 20 blocks up we go. Now, building the support cables for the pylons wouldn't be a difficult task because once again we have a nice detailed background image to go off of. However, a problem arose when mine didn't exactly line up. After 4 3x1 logs, it was meant to be 2 4x1 logs, but I placed another 3 and it just connected before it was meant to. I must have made a mistake somewhere, cause how? I sat and stared at the book for 10 minutes and I just couldn't figure it out and I had a thing to get to, so I didn't have any more time to wait and left it as it was. It didn't even match up to the opposite side either. I connected connected the fence cables and pasted them on the opposite side of the bridge. Then I pasted some more on the other side of the pylons, and that was it. The bridge was complete. I was not told, however, to turn this part into gravel, just keep it as grass. Not what I would have done, but cool looking bridge. I tried fixing the water too, by the way. Didn't work out. Next up is the stained glass poppy, and they finally did something they haven't done up until this point. They given clear building instructions. This one clearly specifies the build is 19 by 13 and how many blocks are used to build the poppy. It tells you to first build with wool and then replace it later once you're happy with the layout, but screw that, we're just scripting straight to the glass. It's just a pixel art poppy, nothing fancy, so it'll be quite easy. However, the third step is to place the window in a chosen room to dazzle your friends. I don't have a room, nor do I have friends. But I did build a border around the window shown in this picture. Plus I can exit the house and turn left to see it. The next one was the same category, but still a little more difficult because these patterns are going to be a nightmare for my eyes. At least it's given the dimensions again, 18 by 36. I placed a black glass outline and then proceeded to make the outline of the Wait, what is this? Did I use grey glass here? Tinted glass? What is this? Do I have some sort of mod pack installed? When did they add this to the game? 1.17? That was like 5 years ago and I'm only just finding out about it now? You learn something new every day. Anyway, as I was saying, I proceeded to make the outline of the pattern with black glass, which is very annoying because glass blends into each other too much. It took quite some time, but I finished that and filled in the rest of the stained glass, and might I say, holy catfish. I never really used stained glass myself, and this is kind of the reason why. Although I added the border around this one too, and then glowstone behind both glass builds, and I think it makes it stand out better. The ocean temple is quite a nice looking build. It also gave me dimensions. I'm going to go through this part quickly rather than dragging out how it's done. I built the outline and then connected it to the ocean floor and completed the bottom of the building. Building these overhanging stone bricks was a bit of a challenge because of how many times it goes up and down. You can never tell if it's meant to be a stone slab or stairs. However, the background image once again fighting good fight. The temple is 5 stories tall, and since each story is practically identical, I could just copy and paste them on top of each other. It was time now to build the roof, and thank you background image once again for the help. But then a problem arose. As you can see here, the stone on the top layer is different to the rest of the build, and when I went to change it, it didn't exactly line up, and then I realized I pasted each story of the building one too low. Okay, there's only one way to handle this. Anyway, I fixed the building. I had to redo the roof, which was a bit of a hassle, but then, hang on. I only fixed the top layer. The ones below are still one too low. Ugh. So I fixed the build a third time, and this time it was correct. I made sure of it and kept taking paranoid glances back at it to make sure. The only thing left to do now was to add in the entrance. Except this revealed another mistake I'd made. I'd given up on reading the instructions, so I hadn't noticed it in the first step. It said that to build prismarine 2 blocks above the water's surface. So before I could even make the door, I had to spend time raising the building up by 2 blocks. It was a hassle because for some reason my axe wasn't doing as it was told, but it got done. There were 3 steps down to the water using stone slabs and stone stairs, but after all my issues having to redo this building so many times, it was complete. And like I said, it looked good. Quite efficient too. I can sail my boat over to it and climb the stairs of the temple before looking out across the landscape to all my other construction handbook builds. Now the floating island. That one was annoying. It says to build up 30 to 40 blocks, so let's go with 40 because I want it to be as high as possible while still looking good. Now I need to build this weird outline of the island, but it's so hard to count, and what I ended up doing was building really far out on each side and then moving out what I'd built backwards when I thought it was done. Does that look right to you? Because it definitely doesn't to me, but this is actually my 5th attempt at trying to build this island, and so I'm just going to leave it like this. I'd show you the 4 attempts, but I had to delete the footage because this recording is already taking up 15 gigabytes. Trying to build the edges connecting to the middle also sucked because you can hardly see it in any of these images, and to be honest, it didn't even match up, so I had to improvise because there was little I could do, especially with the one at the back where you can't even see it behind this one. Once I filled in the top of the island with stone, it was time to build the actual island, and that was too much for me. I attempted it at first, but like I said, this is my 5th attempt at the island, so I did what we in the business call giving up. I just built it, however, and decided to reap the consequences of the comment section when it came to it. Then comes 3 layers of grass, and I did the same thing with the stone. I probably could have used this bird's eye view image of the castle outline that comes next to it properly, but once more I was feeling really nauseous and just wanted to get out of there. I took a break to eat a slice of chocolate cake. When I returned from my confectionery intermission, I made a start on the castle, which was the easiest part of this whole thing. Each one of these walls is 7 blocks long, and the building is 5 blocks tall, while the towers are 9 blocks tall. I added the details such as the spruce floor, changed some bits to stone bricks, built the roofs of the towers, and put in a gate. The island was finally and thankfully complete. Although it did seem weird how they told me to add foliage to the island and then it would be torn down to make room for the monarchy. So I created a second island nearby just for that. It didn't tell me to do this bit, but I dug into the ground the exact shape of the islands to make it look like they'd raised out of the ground. Really immerses you into the world, I think. Second to last build, a Galleon ship. I don't know if you can hear how defeated I sound in my voice at this point. Although I gotta say, a Galleon in Sea of Thieves is far bigger than this, and that gives me slight comfort. Told me to build over the desert and move the ship to the sea when it was complete, but screw that. We're putting it straight in the water. We begin with the outline, which wasn't too difficult, except I did do it wrong at first and I had to start over. That looks about right, I think. Okay, so the second step will probably tell me where to place a few of the side plank. What the hell is this? For some reason, step 2 was a massive leap from step 1 and you just had to complete the entire hull of the boat. This might be really bad for my eyes trying to squint to look at where each block goes. Also, I started to think that maybe I should have done it in the desert. For some reason, it wasn't exactly matching up even though I had done the outline correctly, I assume. But I came to the realization that the bottom logs were meant to be destroyed and the bottom of the hull was supposed to just be birch planks. The front of the boat wasn't really shown, so I just did it however I thought it'd look right. Once the hull was complete, it was time to start constructing the poop deck. I'd say it wasn't too difficult, just oak slabs and stone bricks, but it did take me about 10 minutes to get it done. Still, the ship's off to a good start, or middle I guess. Just like the house, the interior of the boat had nothing in it. Now comes the masts. I counted the one at the front, which was 26 blocks tall, and I can confirm my count was actually correct for once. And the one in the middle I built up to the same height and just added more blocks on top of it, and if it needs to be shorter or taller, I'd change it when the time came. I built the beginning of the sail at the front as shown in this image to give me a good base for how to do it with the whole sail later. I built up the mast at the back to the same height as the first one and added the other two sail starters. Now we move on to the actual sails. You don't want to repeat on the other side I don't think, because wouldn't the wind be pushing the sail in this direction? But the real challenge was the middle sail, which was the biggest one. Now I could tell you I sat here and tried my hardest to figure out how to do this sail, which I did do for 10 minutes, but I gave up and just did it however. Because like I mentioned before, I was feeling defeated. I've been making this video for so long now. It's been a month since the last upload and I just want to put this handbook back on my shelf for another 10 years. I added the small red flags at the top of the masts and just like that, the Galleon ship was complete. Pretty small Galleon though. Looks more like a brigantine. Also, Sea of Thieves should update their Galleon to allow up to 8 players, because look at the size of that ship. And with that, we move on to the final build. An epic roller coaster. Okay, whoever's in charge of labeling the difficulties in this book needs to be examined, because this small wooden thing has been given a 3 difficulty, whereas you have things such as the Ocean Temple, which is only 1, and even the floating island is a 2. You really think this is harder to build than this? Putting the incorrect difficulties aside, the roller coaster is about 50 blocks long, and there isn't much to be said about how to do it. I go up, then I go down, place a few bumps and a starting position, and we have an initial coaster already complete. Of course, we still have details to add such as fences to hold the thing up, a tunnel looping around the lower end, the roller coaster entrance which I filled with minecarts, a few more touch-ups like lanterns, fences, slabs and trees as a border. Just make these bumps a little bigger, and just a few more roller coaster details. And there we have it. Actually looks a lot nicer than it does in the book. I thought it would be a bit of an eyesore when I first realised it was back there. I was about to end the video and then I noticed I hadn't built it yet. I was also told I could build some other roller coaster designs to add to mine, such as multiple daredevil drops and a half pipe design. Anyway, enough talk, let's ride this thing.
Later.
Wee. Out of all 3 of those, the half pipe is probably the most fun because it doesn't actually stop. And there we have it. I built the entire Minecraft construction handbook in 2026, 12 years after it originally released. When I started this project, I initially thought, well, this is going to be a nice quick one. I'll build them all in a day and get this out tomorrow. This was not the case. I'd probably say the house is the most useful build out of all of these, and one I could actually see myself using the handbook for. Do I think you should build the entire handbook? Or if you can do it without feeling nauseous, I guess. But regardless of whether they release the updated edition, I don't think I'll be returning due to the sheer number of times I've thrown up. I thought I'd at least feel a sense of accomplishment, but all I can think is thank God that's over. I mean, it does look pretty cool with all the builds next to each other like this. Now I gotta figure out a way to put them all into a thumbnail together. Anyway, thank you for suffering with me for the last 20 minutes or however long this video ended up being. I don't actually own the other handbooks anymore. I don't know where they disappeared to. But if you'd like me to test them out to give this video a like, I beg you to subscribe to make my pain worth it. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.